Probably won't work if I do this. Hey everyone, how's it going? Give me a second as I try to figure out sound settings, make sure we're good to stream this morning. Now check out how you guys look. I'm looking at myself on Facebook and on Twitch. Cool. Double check the sounds. Okay, volume's coming in well, but is it coming out? Let's try this. Speakers. Nope. How about that one? Let's have this output. Perfect. Let's use this. Alright, so you guys might hear a bit of double audio for a second while I get this. Alright, so you guys might hear a bit of double audio for a second. Alright, good. So there's no feedback issues like there were last week. Good. And let's check Facebook. Alright, so you guys might hear a bit of double audio for a second. Sweet. Alright, guys and gals, thanks for joining this morning or whenever you do decide to watch this. I'm on the, let's see here, shrink this window down for a sec. I'm on the Facebook chats, as well as the Twitch chat. So if you guys and gals have any questions, just drop me a line in there, and I'll be checking the chats and trying to get back to you as soon as I can. I guess let's do a quick primer for those of you that are here for the first time. My name is Aiman Akhtar. I'm a 3D artist based in Los Angeles for about 4 years now. I've been doing 3D about 10 years in ZBrush for almost all of that time, and since ZBrush 1.5. And over the past 4 years, I've tried to focus a lot in entertainment, animation, and toys. So I've got a lot of different experience with different companies doing 3D printing for large scale, doing my own brand and building my own thing, stop motion animation, VR sculpting, costumes, and the previous gig I was on for the past 7 months was miniatures as well. So I cover a lot of 3D printing ideas to reality in my stream every Monday. So you can check out more of my work on aiman3d.com, and you can check out my prints and sculpture section. A lot of it is going to be about my own brand right now that I've been building, fungusaurs, little dinosaur mushroom hybrids. So these are sculpts that I made in ZBrush that were my own ideas, and now from that idea, I've, with the help of my wife, we've created a whole brand around them. So we've got 15,000 toys that we mass-produced and did a Kickstarter which got funded. We're trying to fulfill the pre-orders right now and hopefully launch the retail site very, very soon. Alright, so if you want to keep up to what my latest project is, you can check it out on Instagram.com/fungusaurs. It's more than a toy line, also developing an augmented reality game that lets you actually bring the toys to life and put them wherever you want and interact with them, kind of like a Tamagotchi mixed with Pokemon Go kind of thing. Yeah, so like I said, Kickstarter fulfillment in full swing right now. That's my couch, just covered in boxes right now. But yeah, that's Fungusaurs. And let's see. Recently got featured on the ZBrush podcast, so that was pretty dope. Got interviewed with Solomon, who's an awesome interviewer. So if you guys are interested in knowing more about my career and how I came to be where I am, I'll drop that link inside the chat windows. Anil Alchin, nice to meet you. And Sean Greenwood, what's up? Well, you can always watch it later, Sean. You don't need to watch it right now. And I'll show you guys how to do that. Let's see, Twitch. I'll drop that in here as well. Alright, cool. So if you go to just any Google tab and you type in ZBrush Live, you can see the podcast and Z Plays. Click on those, and you can see my podcast. So that's one thing. And there's other podcasts. There's awesome artists. All of these artists you should be following. If you go to presenters instead of podcasts, well, presenters, you can check out Shane Olson's streams. He might be streaming later today after me. Michael Pavlovich, Danny Mac, all these awesome people. And mine's right there. you can check out the past broadcasts and schedules. And you can see for this month, I'm only streaming today and then the last day, New Year's Eve, December 31st. I'll talk a bit about New Year's resolutions, wrap up the projects that I've done in 2018, and then the kinds of things I want to tackle in 2019. But here you can see more samples of my work. For example, there's that awesome 3D printed dress, which is now a lamp in my back. You can see it right there. And my own company, 3D Smiths, and what I want to do with it this year. Just plan to keep building, you know. But the point was to say, those are all the previous podcasts, so you can check them out. And there's 3 pages of them now, because I guess I've been doing this for 25 episodes. This is my number 25. That's pretty cool. And as you can see, over the past month and a half or so, I've been doing a very slow roll on one project, which is Ryan Winch's Logan character from Space Pilgrim. Concept artist, a friend of mine, and I'm helping make a 3D out of his 2D character. And what I wanted to do was, over the past month and a half, just kind of show you every part of it. So I've only been making this character 2 hours at a time on my streams, which is why it's taken so long. But I want to try to wrap him up today, almost there to wrap him up. I think I just need a few logos from Ryan, and then we'll be able to close it down. But I'll jump into this today and take it from there. Enough intro. Let's get started. Sound settings are a go. Godzilla is a firing. We'll open up ZBrush. And I can also maybe move this window a little bit so you can see some more of my brush settings. Alright, so I'm just going to show you a quick where we're at with this Logan sculpt. So I've done a few more hard surface things. I've finished the rocks and the shoes and the gloves like I was starting last stream. Last stream I was just talking about the gloves and this readout. This is basically where we were at last stream. And from there I've worked a bit on the face, refined more of the large shapes of the hair. We're pretty much through most of the detailing. I have to add a bit more stitch detail. I might experiment with trying some sort of texture detail on the surface of the suit. It might be overkill, and it might not read and print anyway. And I might actually want to keep, you know, a spacesuit vibe with that, you know, really clean. But the main thing I want to work on today is the front chest piece here and the straps, because once I replace those, do a little bit of hair addition, add the Space Pilgrim logo there, we're ready to print. Maybe I'll hollow it. Maybe I'll just do a quick hollowing demo so you guys can see how I go about preparing something to print on the Form 2. And that actually might be the last stream I do at the end of December, where I, you know, print this out and I show you guys how to prep it. December 31st, coming right up. Alright, so where do we stand with Logan right now? Let's do a quick move around. What's up, Mateus? Thanks for joining. All the way from Spain somewhere, I'm sure. Love your hair. Thanks, man. I love yours as well. Mossy Jani, hi from Thailand. What's up? Tung Din from Vietnam. Thanks for tuning in. So this is a bit of a heavy scene, which might slow things down as I rotate it around. And I'm going to probably try to just hide and work on one thing at a time. You can see all the details that I tend to make. I make them a lot larger than life because I want them to print. And as such, I keep thin cords wrapped around larger cords, and nothing's hanging loose. Everything is well supported. That's just how I sculpt, especially when I'm thinking about 3D print. So these are the parts we're going to work on today to try to get them closer to finish. I'm going to make a new strap that's more in line with this concept and like an IMM brush. So if you guys don't know how to make an IMM brush, stick around. I'll show you that. and then just maybe use some Z-modeler to keep refining this front backpack part. So I will basically start by clicking on clone, and I'll work on a clone in another scene. Now I found this just basically helps to speed things up slightly for me because there's not a lot of stuff in this scene, pretty much just one subtool. So I'll duplicate it to start, and let's put on some jazz as we work. I'm grouping just these straps, and I'll group just this area. Actually, you know what? I won't group it. I'll just do a split hidden. That way it'll basically pop it off into its own thing. And I can still work on it bit by bit. Masking, pretty standard stuff. And a little bit of rotation on here, just to line it up a bit better. Same thing on this end. And working low poly in ZBrush is new to me. I tend to basically be the guy that goes head on into organic sculpting. But this is a fun challenge because ZBrush has a lot of organic sculpting tools, but it's got a lot of fine sculpting tools now too. Poly modeling, so to speak. And I'm getting better at navigating quickly in ZBrush. Fan of these transpose tools. Alright, that one's looking good. Alright, so we're going to redo the straps, so I'm not worried about those for a second. Working on this chest emblem piece. Let's take a look at the concept. Alright, so a few more things needed here. This basically needs a bit more detail, a little bit more beveling along the edges. New straps, some detailed inserts, buckles so to speak, I think. Yeah, they're buckles. And just a bit more detail along this front chest accessory piece. Once we have that, I think I'll just work a bit on the hair and then add that Space Pilgrim logo and we'll almost be ready to print. So today I'm going to focus on this chest accessory and the new straps. So it looks like this kind of does a little bit of a curve downward before it seals, and there's like an Iron Man light kind of thing going on in there. Might use some Booleans to subtract out of the center. Some damn standard there. And it's a Z-modeler to get this curve of a shape. And then we'll build those up. Alright, so let's see what happens if I divide this thing right now. Alright, that's pretty cool, except the front piece just kind of hangs out, and I don't want that. I want this front piece to bevel and be sharper around the front. And I don't want these parts sticking out. So there's a couple of things to work on. So let's undo that subdivision. Stick this in a bit further. Same thing on this end. So this is the part we want to work on first. I'm going to switch to my Z Modeler brush. Now with Z Modeler on, I just press ZM. With Z Modeler on, what we want to do is hover over an edge loop or a face or a vertex and press space. And that'll basically pop up the Z Modeler menu options for that particular type of topology. So in this case, I want to be hovering over an edge loop, and I want to say insert single edge loop. And then we'll insert that edge loop and drag it over to the edge. And this will just help me bevel. So if I sharpen the crease over here and on the inside, pretty standard poly modeling practice, sharpening creases where you want them to be sharp. Well, where am I adding this? Doesn't see that as an edge loop for some reason, but that's fine. I've got this edge sharpened. Alright, so check this out. I've added edge loops over on the back end and on the front end, but I didn't add any here. So in theory, it should smooth this out when it divides. Let's see what happens. Bring everything back. So you see how it smoothed that area out, but it didn't smooth out the edges this time because we added extra loops. I want it even smoother than this, so let's go ahead and hide everything else again. I'm going to add an edge loop right there, another one right here, center-ish, and now I'm going to basically, instead of inserting, I'll say delete, and I'll delete the whole edge loop complete, and I'll wipe this one away, and it'll just help me round out that shape even further. Now I could do this, you know, bit by bit myself, or I could just see what ZBrush can do for me. So now if I divide, it's much rounder, and that's the shape I was looking for. Much more medallion-esque, much more like a crest. And I'll also grab that front end, bury it in a bit. And this is something I'm always thinking about with 3D printing, making sure the two sides, these two pieces, this yellow one, okay, yellow one and this blue one are completely interpenetrating. All these things need to be completely interpenetrating, otherwise Dynamesh is going to throw a fit. Alright, so this may look strange from this angle. Well, there you go. But basically this is the top straps and these are the side straps. So this looks pretty good to me. I want to keep refining the center area, and I want to update these straps along the edge. Let's try some stuff. We'll click on Auto Groups. Delete lower to delete the history. One trick I learned recently with just the transpose tools and scale, you can set your transpose bar where you want it and just hold Alt as you move things up and around, and it's a very quick way to bevel. And I wanted to add a slight bevel to some of these areas. That's way too much, but you get the idea, to go from a complete flat to a bit of a curve. So I'm going to try that again. I want to add a bit of bevel. Just dragging my transpose bar and holding Alt to scale in just slightly. That way it'll look like a buckle going into the edge of this backpack center accessory piece. We'll do the same over here. Just a slight bevel. Happy little bevels. Yeah, ZBrush is really powerful. Weapon is just pressing Alt in a lot of different options. things that I used to think that I need a specific deformer to do or something ZBrush is missing, a lot of the times it was just Alt. Alright, looking good. I want to add some feature over here, a little triangle and a circle. So let's see, a few different ways I could do it. I could Boolean it out or create a custom shape. So let's do that. I'm going to switch just to a simple brush, just clear scene. Let's load up a sphere. Draw it out. Make it a polymesh 3D. I'll divide it up a bit. Go to my clip brushes. I'm going to create a triangle out of this. And you know what? Just to keep it symmetrical, I'll have X symmetry turned on. Cool. There's my triangle. Just clip the edges as well. Just a smidge. Okay. And let's Dynamesh that. And smooth the heck out of it. Alright, so there's our triangle cutter. And let's also then append to this a cylinder. And with the cylinder, I'll rotate it. And since I'm in the center of ZBrush's UI, I can just rotate using the deformation tools. Let's see, is it Z? No, it is not Z. Must be X. Yep. I'll say 90-degree rotation. And maybe even size it up a bit. Divide it up. And then clip right about there. Let's move the whole thing up so that the triangle is right smack center. Just might as well cut and clip that as well. And I'm going to Dynamesh and smooth that edge out as well. Dynamesh, there we go. It's because I want the edge quality to be a bit soft. This is a good guy. So we want everything to be sharp, even the mechanical things to be just slightly smooth. Alright, so I'm going to merge these two pieces together. There it is. Merge down. And Dynamesh these two together. And now this is my cutter for the shape I'm going to be using the shape I'll be using to cut out of those little bevels that we just were working on. So there's a few different ways to do this. I could just use an insert mesh brush or create an insert mesh brush and then draw it in place for each little bit. Let's try that first. What I'm going to do then is rotate this around to the back end. I could create the brush facing this way, but since I'm cutting in, I want to face it away from me. And I'll go to the brush menu and say create insert mesh. New. Let's go back to our straps then. And we'll draw that insert mesh brush out right there. And we can use that as a cutter. Now, you can see that it's kind of hanging out on the surface. It's not really going all the way through. And that's because the depth slider is set really up high. Let me make sure you guys can see my depth slider in OBS. Yep, right there. So, I'm going to lower that depth slider down to there. Now, for most of you that don't have a custom UI, this is going to be under Brush, Depth, right there, Depth slider. And now when I draw it on, you can see a lot of that triangle is just buried into this mesh. So let's draw this out about yay big, maybe a bit more centered. And let's split unmasked points. And we can set this to be a Boolean, and we can go to render and turn on render Booleans, live Boolean. We can see what's happening. The cool thing about live Booleans is I can still come into this piece and rotate it, decide how exactly I want that cut, and I can decide the depth of it. So just the triangle, or the triangle and the circle, and how much of each. Alright, digging that. And I'm digging the size I've got going for that one. Some of these straps aren't sticking out the same length, so I want to make sure they are. Just stick it out a tad more. Just pulling these out to give myself a bit more space to work. Alright, now I'm going to go to my cutter and duplicate it and move it over to about right there. Maybe rotate it a bit as well. Now I could keep drawing insert meshes, but then insert meshes aren't necessarily, because they don't come out of the same scale. And I think ZBrush has something to address this in their new update, which I don't know if it's out yet. To do some research on that. I'll just center this for now, and let's use it as a cutter. Live Boolean fixed itself, and when I do a rotation, something like that. It's a bit too deep still, so I'm going to move it out. Live Booleans is so cool. This used to take so much longer to do, and now I can just kind of see it. Finally, having Booleans working is really cool. Alright, looks like in order to keep pace with this one, I'll need to pull this one out a bit further. Alright. So, I'm just going to do the same thing for the back two here. See, let's use the insert mesh brush anyway. I think we're pretty close. Alright, pretty happy with that detail. Let's move on to create the same use the same technique to create the center medallion piece as well. By the way, all these are still not finished yet. They're all Booleans, so I'm just going to keep working with live Boolean on, because you can stack them. You can stack multiple pieces on live Boolean, and then just make it its own Boolean mesh. I'm going to save this as chest accessory in case we crash. Alright, and let's make that center medallion. Let's see if you guys have any questions going on. Alright, Thomas Satcher is saying, I want to watch but the audio is horrible. RIP headphones, okay. So it looks like you guys are still having some audio feedback issues, huh? Trying a new different speaker method. Alright, so Dougie is saying also the mic volume is extremely loud. Readjust settings. Alright, cool. Give me a second, guys, and I'll try to figure this out right now. Turn off the jazz. Let's turn up the... Well, this is the same mic I've been using since the beginning of the stream, and it was working a lot better, this Logitech Webcam Pro, in the beginning. I think it was working better because I had a speaker plugged in and I was actually trying to play out audio through that speaker, and then the feedback wasn't an issue as much. Mic output. Hello. Hello. No, still about the same. Let's see. Thanks for sticking around and help me troubleshoot, guys. Steven Monkey's Blood. Congrats on your Fungusaurus venture. Appreciate that, man. It has been a lot of progress over the past few years. It's been pretty crazy. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's not even a thing. Okay, so in the sound settings, we got recording, microphone, properties, levels. Let's try lowering this level. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah, that's cool. At least that way it won't overdo it. Alright, let's see if that made it any better. I'm going to try to listen to what's going on Facebook here. Yeah, that's cool. At least that way it won't... And let's try taking them back and try again. How's that sounding? That made it any better. Try to listen to what's going on Facebook here. Troubleshooting 101. Let's try taking them back and try again. Yep, so that gets too loud. So, okay, that's the main issue. Let's try to lower this down, and hopefully that will do the trick for you guys. Because that way at least we'll avoid the cracking. Yep, so that gets too loud. So, okay, that's the main issue. Let's try to lower this down, and hopefully that will do the trick for you guys. All right. And I'll work on getting a better speaker system set up so that you guys don't have to deal with this anymore. Cool. Lower the volume back down on this. Back up here. Fernando Galieto from Brazil. Hey, man. Thanks for joining. Okay. Sailor Heck. Mike's better? Cool. All right. Thank you, man. All right. I try to do that at the beginning of the streams. Make sure that the sound quality is good for you guys, but I'm glad we caught it. Alright, so back to the center medallion piece. So some people ask, what am I working on? It's a center chest piece, medallion, so to speak, for this character. He's a space cadet. He's got this giant mechanical backpack, kind of a flying drone on its own. And his little drone buddy here, too. Kind of launching and hanging out by his side. Now these guys green because he's ready to print. Like that's my usual MO, is I'll turn something green when it's ready to print. And it's also keyed. Now I just have to do the same thing for the other side. I mean for the other pieces. So I'll turn Quark the drone off for now. And continue finishing up that chest piece and do some new straps. Alright, so there's the chest piece. Center medallion time. Alright, taking a look at the center medallion. There's a few lines that need to get cut in. That's easy enough. And then there's this piece that gets kind of cut out. So let's see how we get that piece. Probably the same technique. We'll use a Boolean to either cut it out or pull it out. I think I should pull this out just because the center feature might look better. Let's try it. Got that triangle from before. We can use that again. You know what? We'll append that cylinder on as well. But this time, I'm going to change that cylinder up a bit. Make it a bit more oval. And let's scale it down. So let's try both approaches. Let's try having it cut out, and let's try having it cut in as well. See which we like better. Dynamesh these pieces together. Tap smooth a few times. Not going for much of a ledge. Let's see. Alright, so I'll come straight up front. I'll go to the back side. No, you know what? This time we want to have it pull out, so let's try using the front side. Might want it a bit more crisp on the detail. Just a smidge. Smooth that out. Yeah, much better. And I might up the resolution when I Dynamesh this to 400. Much cleaner. Alright, so now again we'll create an insert mesh brush, but I'm not going to face it away from me. I'm just going to keep it front facing. Go to brush, create insert mesh, and I'll just append it onto the previous one. Yep. I guess I need to select it first, and then I can append it on. So create insert mesh brush, append. And what append allows me to do is when I want to use that insert mesh brush, I select it and then I press M. And M lets me pick which part to use. So I can use that existing cutter or this new one. And the goal now is to use it on here, the centerpiece. And just draw it on. Again, we'll have to adjust the depth. And so we can try both ways. Let's see, this is how it looks like as an addition. And I think that looks pretty cool. Maybe scale it down slightly. Yeah, so to me that looks pretty cool, just being added on. But we can also try cutting it out. So I'm going to do a split hidden, or split unmasked points, which is under polygroups. Let's see. Not polygroups, it's under subtool, because it's already masked. So I can say split unmasked points. And then we'll leave that off for a second. Let's go back to our insert mesh brush. And this time, instead of having it face forward as I make an insert mesh brush, I'll have it face back. And I'll do the same thing. Create insert mesh brush append. And now while it's facing backwards, when I draw it out, it should also draw it out backwards. So I'll hide that piece. I'll draw this out. And let's try using this as a cutter and see how that looks instead. So I'll split unmask points again. Switch this to be a cutter. And I think my depth was set pretty high, so I'm just going to bury this in by hand. Just kind of cut it in. So though it works, I just feel like it's not as successful and visually noticeable as having that piece stick out. So to me, that is just much more legible than that. But the fun thing about ZBrush now is that it lets you experiment and figure it out for yourself what you like. So I don't need this. I'm going to toss that away. That's looking pretty close to what I want. Let's add these grooves along the sides. A few different ways to do that. I'm going to split hidden. Crank up the divisions on this. Let's try something fun. I'm going to mask select the whole thing. I'm going to switch my mask tool to my mask lasso. Basically create some grooves. We can refine them as much as we want. Might be actually good to make it feel more mechanical if we do the grooves through and through. Like that. And they're a bit thick still. Alright. Let's do the same thing the other way. Cool, got my grooves. Invert that mask. I'll go to my deformation and then let's just do a inflate, deflate. Or I could do size. Let's just try inflate first. And this way they all just kind of inflate in around the edges. Now the edges look a bit wonky, so let's make sure we don't get that. Let's try inflate balloon. Now ZBrush might crash when you do the deformation, so be careful. And you know what? Just to be safe, I'm going to save this again. And just try a few of these. Let's try size. Size will give me what I want. It's just pulling it up in some random direction. So I could also just use size and then pull it back down. So that's basically what we're trying to do, is just have those cut in a bit. I'm going to try inflate. I think inflate will do what I want. Yeah, if this was being built at location, then that deformation feature would work really well. I think for now, what I could try to do is just use my gizmo. There we go. 100 different ways in ZBrush to do any one thing. You just got to find the way that you like. This adds a little fun feature to it, you know? A bit more interest. And if we want, we can try to clip that center part away as well. So let's try. I'm going to switch to clip circle, draw the circle, then just refine it into place. I was supposed to press Alt when I let go. So get it to where you want, and then hold Alt, and then let go. There we go. Then it cuts out that perfect circle out of the center. Yeah, there we go. All right, chest accessory piece, almost completely detailed. Might have this piece right there. Stick out a tad more. Just to enhance that beveled edge a little bit, all the way around. And pull this piece out, fit it further as well. And the centerpiece. The bigger you make all these ledges, the better they'll read for print. All right, that's looking awesome. Especially considering we started with nothing. So just a little bit of Z modelering, moving things around, and we have everything we want, detail-wise. So I'll save this. And now let's make some new straps. And you know what? A little bit of detail in this would go a long way too. Let's see. Might want to use ZModeler for this part, so let's split hidden. Go to geometry, reconstruct subdiv, so we can try to get the lowest resolution this was at. Let's add a few little bits of detail in here too. Just some lines to indicate separation, more mechanization. Switch to ZModeler. I'll hover over an edge, and let's try this. Let's try to extrude. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I want to make this edge a bit thinner. Insert an edge loop. Complete. Delete higher subdivisions before I do that. Whoa. That's interesting. Let's make sure it's... Oh, there we go. It's set to inset, not insert. There we go. So I'm just going to create one line there just to kind of drag out. And I might create some edges, hover over that main poly, and extrude it in. So I'll go to extrude, poly loop, if I can find it. There we go. Let's try that. Just pull that in. And then when we divide, have a nice little crease in there. Just a touch more detail. Let's use the insert mesh brushes that we have already also to experiment. I'm going to invert the scale on that, move it in a little bit, use that as a cutter. Just to add, little bits of detail more here and there. And then we'll move on to the straps. Like a little bit. I'm going to add the same thing to this end. Go back to my latest used insert mesh brush. I believe there's one of these. Yeah, there we go. Fun little feature if you guys haven't used it, just invert scaling. Splitting on mask points, just using a Boolean cutter then. Whoa, wrong piece. There we go. Cool. That one side looks a lot smaller than the other. But now that I look at it, I like it a bit bigger, more visible. Yeah, neat. All right, now we're happy with all the booleans and all the shapes, and we could keep going, but I want to move on to the straps. Let's go ahead and turn all these separate pieces into one mesh. The way we're going to do that is we're going to go up to Render, Live Booleans is on, double check, and then go to Boolean and make Boolean mesh out of everything. And it's going to analyze everything that's visible and should hopefully cut it out for us. So let's see, make Boolean mesh. Alright, so looks like nothing's going on in here, but what's actually happened, I think, is it appends it on as its own little tool, and then it unifies everything. So the geometry, you can tell, is still strange, very, very strange. At least the topology is strange. But once we dynamesh it, it should look pretty good. So let's try that. Go to Geometry, Dynamesh. Let's try what it looks like at 128 resolution. I always try that first. And that is nowhere near enough resolution. So we're going to undo, crank this up to say 500 first, and just slowly increase our resolution till we have it to where we want it. Better, but still too low res. Let's try 1000. better, but still losing a bit of detail in there. And it's only 230,000 polys. So let's crank this up to 2,000. So 1.5 million going down to almost a mil right now. And that gives us the resolution I want. So I'm just going to hit it with a bit of smooth overall. Smooth out those creases a bit. Just lightly tapping. Could do this procedurally as well. Alright. Very cool. So, in very short time, we created this whole accessorized chest piece. Let's append this back onto our main dude. So let's call this chest new. Let's go back to our main dude and go to append chest new. And there it is. Then let's turn this piece off. Alright, that's looking sweet in there. Now let's add the new straps and merge these shirt pieces. I think they're still, the sleeves are separate from the chest. So I'll merge those together and just smooth out some of those creases and lines. Add the new straps. And then yeah, we're almost done with this character. 9 o'clock. Alright, so how do we go about making new straps? What we're trying to do is create a sharper, cleaner look to the existing ones, which kind of just, we're very organically sculpted, you know. I think I started with an insert mesh with these, but it just kind of got out of hand as I figured it out. So I'm going to do it again now and just make it clean. Kind of like these pipes almost. You know, just clean separation. Now if you look at any of these pipes, they're made up of a few different pieces. Let's do an auto groups. Usually it groups them together. But basically I've got these pieces and these pieces. So they're kind of like an interlocking tube of sorts. And we want to do this same kind of thing, but for squares for the straps. So let's go over to a Cube 3D. Let me actually clean up the scene a little bit. There's got a lot of stuff in it now. Delete that. Delete that. Uh-oh. ZBrush crashed. No! Well, that gives me some time to take a look at your questions and comments. Alright. Tung Din's asking, why do you not use Gizmo 3D for transform? I do. Oftentimes it just depends on what orientation I'm at. I'm pretty comfortable with the ZBrush transpose tools. So I'm going to take some time and I'll get used to the Gizmo as well. Snack Wrangler on Twitch saying, damn, I want to buy ZBrush. It's so expensive though. Well, it depends how you look at it. What's good about ZBrush is it's much cheaper than the larger, you know, full-on applications like Maya that cost way too much. But Maya's at least on subscription. ZBrush was a lot cheaper when I got it in the past, and it's also a really good customer service-based company because they give you free upgrades for artists every single time they do an upgrade, and they provide a lot of content in every upgrade, so it's pretty big deal. All right, gonna go back to my project. Or actually, let's see if Lightbox saved anything useful. That recovered tool looks like nothing useful at all. Let's see where we left off. Okay, let's draw this out. Switch to the right material, AA half, zoom in. So still the old chest strap. Let's switch to bring in the chest accessory. Darn, it didn't save the edges that we were working on. Or maybe it did. Nope, no, it definitely didn't. I'm going to turn on live Booleans. And let's at least add that crease back in there, because that was relatively easy to do. Go to Geometry, Reconstruct Subdivision. Delete Higher. Switch to my Z modeler. Insert a couple of edge loops. And extrude that poly loop in. Cool. Alright, let's run it like this. And if I want to extract more pieces out later, I can. Alright, I'm going to go to my render. Live Boolean is on. I'm going to check here, Boolean, and make Boolean mesh. Hey Kataya, thanks for joining in. Checking out my stream. Alright, so that should have worked. If we go up here, we'll notice there it is, new appended piece. So I'm actually going to make sure that I get it onto my chest accessory piece ASAP. Duplicate it there. Turn everything else off, and let's Dynamesh this because it's all a bunch of pieces. I'll unify the grooves by pressing Ctrl W and Geometry Dynamesh. And I think we previously discovered 2000 resolution worked well. Dynamesh that. Much faster that time. And let's smooth it out a bit. All right. Let's rename this to chest accessory new. Save the scene. And let's bring that into my main mesh. So you delete all here. Keep the scene pretty clean and organized. Alright, new chest accessories in scene. What we want to do now is hide the old chest accessory. Which is right there somewhere. There it is. So I'll toss that. And now let's add in some new straps. So let me save this scene before it crashes again. And let's create some new straps using the IMM method again. But we'll try a different shape this time. So I'll switch to the simple brush. Let's start with the cube 3D. And we'll try a couple of fun things on this one. So first thing I want to do is maybe have a little bit of fun with the extrusion here. So let's go in our Z modeler. And with Z modeler selected, we have to first make this a polymesh 3D in order for Z modeler to work. We will, let's say, start by polygrouping the poly loop. And let's see what happens when I click. Looks like it's trying to loop all the way around that way. So it's not poly loop I'm looking for. Maybe polygroup island, polygroup inner. So you can kind of click to create your own new polygroup by selecting the faces you want in that polygroup. So I'm just going to select all of these along the edge. I know there's a faster way to do this, but that worked. Now with that hidden, I can click auto group, so I'll have a separate color for the centerpiece as well. And then I can unite, and there we go, I've got a polygroup of its own. Make a mass selection around it. Let's try extruding that whole polygroup down. So I'll go back into Z modeler. I'm going to go to extrude. Or first, let's move it. Let's move the whole polygroup. Let's see. Polygroup island. Let's see if that works. There. So now we can move that whole polygroup island up and down relatively easily. That part's pretty easy even with just the standard move tool. Just trying to create a little bit of interest in this strap that we're going to make. And now that that worked, I know extrude will work as well. Nope. Extrude, polygroup. Interesting. Polygroup island. There we go. Do that again. And again. Let's also insert some edge loops over here along the edges. And we can lower the whole thing like so. It's fun to work in ZBrush in just really low poly sometimes. Don't forget that that's an option. And select the outer poly groups or outer edges. So don't want to affect those. Alright, that's looking like what I was thinking. Just basically having a little bit more interest in that. Alright, so if that's what our strap is going to look like, and we'll smooth it out and do some fun stuff to it. But if that's what our strap is going to look like, let's also add in some edges. So this time what I'm going to do, still with the Z modeler selected, I want to extrude a bit out along this edge. So let's polygroup again. Single poly. Make sure we're only clicking on the faces. If we click on an edge, ZModeler will execute the edge command, which is not what we want. Alright, so that's basically what we want, and we're going to extrude that out a bit, and we'll do the same thing on the other end. Or, let's see if we can trick ZBrush into using modify topology mirror and weld for us. Maybe mirror it on the Z-axis. Ha! It would, except it's doing it the other direction. So let's work on the other side. That way I only have to do it on one side and I can mirror it over. Select that edge. It's got both selected, but auto groups that, hide that piece. Only work on this side. And what I want to do is basically select it. And you know what? I'll do an extrusion. Just to have a little bit kind of sticking out of the edge there. Might add an edge loop over there as well. And let's do a modify topology mirror and weld to mirror that stuff over to the other end. Let's see what this looks like once we start smoothing. That's pretty much how I intended. And I think this will create a cool strap for us all the way down. So let's try this. I'm going to undo the smoothing, duplicate it, and then divide. Delete lower, unify those polygroups. Alright, that's what we want. It's a fun little shape we've created. I'm not too worried about these inner pieces because they should overlap with each other pretty well. Let's see how it goes. Just in case, to help that overlap, I'm going to make this a bit thicker. And let's create an insert mesh brush from that piece. We'll say new. And we're going to turn on some new settings. We're going to go under stroke and turn on curve. And let's see what this looks like when we start trying to draw it on. It's wanting to go to any old piece, make it a polymesh 3D. Start drawing. And there we can see we've got the makings of a strap. Want to make sure that the strap kind of interconnects with each other. So let's see how we can make that happen. I think the easiest way to think about it is to avoid having the issue on both sides. We'll just have this strap part extend down from the one side. So I'll switch to my clip curve, clip that edge away, smooth it out. Dynamesh that. And let's try 500 resolution. Cool, that worked. Just smoothing. Try lowering the resolution a smidge. Let's tap smooth over the whole thing as well. Round it all out. It's not as smooth as I want it to be up at the top. Might hit it with like a H polish. There we go. Almost. Cool. Alright, so now let's turn this into our new strap. And before we do that, it's a bit high poly at 500K. So let's go to Decimation Master, pre-process, and decimate it. Nope, pre-processed it twice. That's fine. So decimated, it is 98,000 polys, which is still a lot. Maybe I'll decimate it to 10%. Good thing about once you pre-process, you don't need to pre-process again. You can just decimate right away. Just change the amount. All right, that looks good. Let's this time, let's actually label it too. Let's label it strap. And create insert mesh, new. So there's our new strap. Let's try that one out. Same technique. We'll go to stroke and turn on curve mode. We can even adjust the curve step to something like 0.8. Go back to our cylinder. Try drawing it out. And there we go. We've got the makings of our strap. The goal is that when it bends, it stays in perfect alignment. And it looks like it does. 0.8 might be a bit, let's see, leave this there. Let's try changing from 0.8 to 1. The bigger your gap, the more space it leaves between. So that leaves too much space between. Let's try changing it to less than 0.8, like 0.7. And you can see then again becomes really thin. So 0.8 is the way to go. Then we'll go over to our main scene. Over our existing straps. So we've got an idea of the scale we want these straps to be. And we can change our depth. That way when I draw it on, and by the way, once you draw it on, you could always just change your draw size and tap, and it should change the draw size. So that's actually pretty close. Let's try 56. Neat. Alright, so 56 is our draw size. Let's undo and try again. I'm going to change the depth so it buries it a bit further. Effectively almost replacing our existing strap. I'm going to draw the stroke a few times until I feel like I've gotten it right. Starting all the way at the edge, all the way to the other edge. There we go. Nice. And there's our new strap. You can drop that and split unmasked points. And that's looking pretty clean. Looks like it's all very tightly packed together. And even though it's 0.8 right there, it just feels really tightly packed. So I'm going to try switching it to 0.9 and see if we can get it to be a bit better. Drop that. Same thing, split on mask points. Select it. Yeah, to me that's a lot better than this. Just because we'll be able to see that separation in print really well. Alright, so now that I've got the baseline figured out, let's just make the final straps. Whoop. Alright. Now that we've got all those straps drawn, let's solo this out. Should be able to separate by polygroup, so we'll do a group split and have all the straps on their own group, just to refine them a bit further. And we could toss the old straps, or just keep them around as reference for a little longer. Alright, so all of this was happening in my chest accessory scene, and I want to import all of these away from the chest accessory scene into my main scene so I can see the straps around the kid. Let me delete, clean up the scene a bit. Rename that new straps. Let's append the new straps on. All right. Looking a lot more professional and solid with those new straps. And they're all, you know, basically the same size. They're all the same width. They feel a lot more unified. And I can still, on top of these, do a little bit of sculpting in order to move them into place properly. Now I might want to do this by specific poly group at a time. To be a bit safer. Just clean it up, do it cleanly. Want to affect the rotation of these back ones so they line up better with the edge there. I'm going to do an auto groups. Split them off onto their own groups. Whoop. Looks like I hid the ones I wanted to rotate. Let's invert selection. Yeah, there's a lot of straps in this one thing. Alright, easiest way to do it will be to first separate each of the straps into their own groups. So now that they all have their own polygroup color, split, group split, that just gives me some ability to work on those straps individually. Start with these right here, auto groups. And these look like they're coming out of this strap really well, this end. I want to rotate these back ones so they look like they're fitting in to the back end a bit better too. Rotate those a smidge. And just by rotating these first three, I think I'll get that transition I'm looking for. Yeah, maybe a little bit on this fourth one. Smidge. There we go. Pretty happy with how this turned out. I'm going to continue fixing these straps, but you don't need to watch me do that. We can do something a bit more interesting. Psyched that this is starting to look really good. Alright, so what's left? Logo detail and hair. Yeah, that's about it. I can do a recap a bit of how I did the hair and what I want to do on it next, for those of you that weren't around for the previous stream. Might as well reward some of you that are here. $50 people watching on Twitch. Very cool. New to all this Twitch streaming business, so it's great that ZBrush is giving me a platform to try it out. Alright, so got the question from Himanshu ZB18. Hi, is there any good site to sell 3D model print work? That's a good question. 3D print work, it depends if you're trying to sell the prints or the digital files. So it depends what kind of digital files you're making too. I'll talk about this for a second as a segue. We can talk about some of the sites where you can sell some of your stuff. So there's obviously thingiverse.com, whoa, which is probably one of the first sites that got into this whole maker mentality. And I don't know if you can sell stuff on there, but there is a lot of models to find. Formlabs also has their own kind of version of Thingiverse, which they recently acquired. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Pinshape or something like that? No, let's see. Let's see what Pinshape is. Find, share, and sell 3D print files. That was one that was coming to mind, Pinshape. There's another site called CG Trader. So you can look into stuff over there. You can upload your 3D models and 3D print stuff for sale. I know that for sure on CG Trader. So that's a good site for you, maybe. cgtrader.com. Trader. All right, and obviously you can sell your models on Shapeways, which is going to print them out and send them to people directly. So Shapeways is a great way to sell your prints, not your models. All sorts of jewelry, you know, really anything you guys want to make, Shapeways can probably print it and send it to the people. All right, so for the remainder of the stream, instead of doing the straps bit by bit, I think it'll be more enjoyable to watch if I'm working on the hair. Le hair. Solo that out. And what I want to do is create a lot more strands like this using the Dillon-Eckren brush on top of the existing hair and just give it a bit more detail. So for now, I'll merge down onto here. And the hair is what we want to work on. Let's go ahead and clone this. Or first, let me save the file again. And let's click Work on Clone. And what I want to do on here is use the Dillon-Eckren hairbrush. So it's called DE Hair Tubes. So if you Google, I'll just show you really quickly how to find it. DE Hair Tubes. It'll take you to Gumroad where you can download Dillon-Eckren's hairbrush. And I'll leave you this link in the chats as well. Highly recommend this brush. And you can build your own, but it's got a few different types of hair strands already built in. So the goal with hair is first to just define the large clumps, the large shapes, and then you can come over it with something like Dillon's brush and just add more strands. So you can smooth those strands out, drop them, and then you can just switch to your move tool and bury the ends of those strands. Now, with thinking of 3D printing in mind, we want to make sure all of this stuff is very printable, so I try to keep it very on top of my existing mesh. You may prefer to, in fact, lift it up and just have it flying around. If your character is just being rendered, it's a really great way to create a messy hair look. The fun thing is you can adjust these pretty much in low poly. And then come back to them. Alright, so we're happy with that one. We'll just go ahead and add a bunch more of strands all along the top. I'm going to come in and inflate the edges as well so they get a bit larger. And move it as I want. Even lift it up sometimes. And then I generally just bury the edge. part of my workflow anyways. Eventually it'll all get dynameshed onto the main. Looks like I forgot to do that here. Nope, no I did. I just faceting of the polys. So you can see I'm basically accentuating and exaggerating that already existing, those lines. You can also switch to different brushes, like thick A to thick B. And now let's try. It's kind of working the strands one by one. Now I'm going to tune out and just add some hair strands for a minute. Adjust the scale fall off also so it's not so sharp. That way it's not going to be at a very tiny point. You know what? I might actually keep it tiny. Let's just draw it in the way we want it. But it gets large really quickly. Something like that. Yeah. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching me sculpt over the past 25 or so streams. Join me on December 31st in the morning, if you can wake up for New Year's Eve. Talk a little bit about New Year's resolutions and what I want to do for 2019. And we'll do a kind of recap of 2018. That'll be fun for me. And hopefully for you as well. Maybe learn something. Aiman Chu's asking, how do you get inspirational ideas? Do you sketch all this first? I don't know. I mean, actually, I think in 3D most of the times now. I sketch ideas for my new fungusaurs, but that's about it. Other stuff I usually just start directly in 3D. But sketching is a good habit for sure, especially to retain your ideas and get them out. Build some discipline. That's definitely part of my goals for 2019 is more discipline, more regular sculpting, more improvement. I think those are my goals every year, more improvement for sure. You want to make sure you adjust these perfectly before you drop them. It can be a bit hard to select them back again because they're made out of multiple polygroups. Let's try multi-thick. These hair strands are creased just perfectly, so they'll allow us to create some really nice sharp edges very quickly. I can hear my dog's up. On to his barking duties. That usually throws him for a loop when I whistle. It's like, who did that? I guess I've always been more of a dog person. What about you guys and gals? Dog people, cat people? You can see I didn't drop this selection completely, which is why it still shows the curve. And I can go back to the hair tubes brush and just tap, and that should get rid of the curve. It's adding some nice detail strands everywhere. Don't want to cover the whole thing in strands, although you could. I like leaving a bit of the sculpt in there. Solvan is a cat person because it's too cold to walk dogs in the winter. Negative 40 degrees Celsius. Oof. I feel you, man. I feel you for sure. I used to live in Chicago before this, before being in LA. And yeah, it gets really cold. I wouldn't want to walk a dog there either. Himanshu's asking how to be dedicated with our work. I think that's a very individual answer to that. It really depends on the type of person you are and what you're willing to do. I think the way I see it is the best way is to set it up as a habit. Set weekly or daily habits. And those will just help you get the best results. Like I try to do, a lot of my work on routine. So for example, my ZBrush streams are every Monday morning. Maybe not the best time to stream, but it's definitely the best time I can start the week off with doing my own thing. And trying to do more of your work in the mornings instead of nights. Trying to use more of that creative energy and not use only your exhausted mind at the end of the day. Little things like that. It's hard though. A lot of artists are night owls, myself included most of the time. And it's hard to start training yourself to get up in the morning and try to do your best work then. But it's worth trying if it's important to you. If it's important to you, you should start off your day with your own thing. And then work for other people after. Alright, starting to get there. Couple more strands up at the top here. Couple more along the sides, and then we'll be ready to call the hair done. I should make a shortcut for this Dylan Hair Tubes brush, put it on my shelf, because I use it often enough. But I guess mostly only during the hair phase. Hair is all about being, a bit more disorganized. It's got to feel organic. But even us with the hair, we're operating on certain principles. All coming out of kind of a central point right here, this nexus of the hair. That's a good amount of coverage. Let's see what this is actually looking like. Because you don't know until you pop it off and then you smooth. So let me go ahead and split hidden. Got a couple of strands in here from before that were already smooth. I'm going to pop those off, split hidden. And now all of these can just be divided. So here's the reveal of the perfectly cooked turkey coming out of the oven. Just click divide. And we got some nice sharp creases there. Whoop, divided one too many times. There we go. And you can still edit these pieces after the fact. I love some of the sharp creases you can get out of this brush. They look really good in print. Digging it. Yeah, almost all of these are pretty good. Some need a little help in the ends here. so that they feel a bit better buried. But yeah, overall, the hair is looking pretty good. And we can merge all these pieces together. Call this new hair. Let's append that back onto our main character. And we can delete the old ones. So just by adding a bit more detail to the hair, our eye naturally goes there now. And that'll be good because we do want our eye to be drawn to this character's face. And the hair frames the face. So pretty psyched with how this has turned out today. It's been a solid stream despite audio issues at the beginning, which I'll hope to improve and avoid in the future with better gear. Time to do some Amazon shopping right now. Shane Olsen Art, thanks for joining, man. I bet you're, are you streaming in an hour or so? Let's see. Easy way to check is if you want to go to the pixelogic.com presenters, you can check out Shane's section here. And you can see he is indeed streaming today at 11. So stick around in another hour and check out Shane Olsen's awesome stylized character sculpting podcast. Live cast, not podcast. Podcast is when people talk and they don't visually show it. Or is there a difference? Alright, so plan now is to wrap up this character over the course of before the next stream, and on the 31st I will try to show you how to do a little bit of prepping on him and print, but I'll already have the print in hand hopefully, so I'll be able to show you, how to get from start to finish. And then that'll be the last project. This Logan character will be the last project of 2018, and then 2019 is beginning. So I'm looking forward to next year streaming with ZBrush Live, trying a bunch of more weekly projects rather than a long project stretched out over several months, because I'm looking forward to making lots more prints. We've got two printers behind me, the Form 2 and the Raise 3D N2 Plus. So I'm looking forward to pushing their limits and creating a lot of fun stuff. So thanks for joining me in this podcast or live ZBrush stream this morning, and hope you join me again next week, or no, on the 31st for New Year's Eve. Once again, my name was Aiman Akhtar, and if you want to learn more about my work, you can join, or you can just check it out at aiman3d.com, or you can find me at instagram.com, Aiman Akhtar 3D. That's spelled Akhtar. And I post all sorts of stuff, talking about my fungosaurs, going out for some inspiration, like the King Tut exhibit at the California Museum, hanging out with friends, ZBrush podcast, and then a lot about my fungosaurs, because that was a big part of my life and still is, moving forward into 2019. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining, and I will see you on the next stream. See you December 31st.